The region rep qualifier for a free trip to Japan has concluded. Thank you everyone who had faith and was rooting for me. Your support truly means a lot. Unfortunately, while being 4th place global, it was not enough in the NA region to win the trip to Japan, as I was one spot away by a few duels. It's not 100% official yet because the scoreboard hasn't been finalized, but I should be 4th place when it becomes official, barely missing it. I started the final day of the event in 1st place with 98,000 points, a great lead over everyone else. Enough that would usually solidify a qualifying spot, but it wasn't enough for a top 3 finish in North America. In the most competitive region in the world, I was able to hold a top 3 spot for the majority of the event, which I am very happy with. Overall, I have no regrets. I performed exceptionally well. My worry was that I would have underperformed in this important event. I definitely wanted to qualify, but there is no good reason to dwell over randomness ultimately deciding my fate. Myself nor anyone else will be able to win them all, unfortunately. Everyone in the top spots were great players. The meta was pretty much completely figured out before the event even started, especially thanks to the recent Meta Championship series. It's not easy to have a massive lead above others unless you truly do have a secret top tier deck. Which I'll tell you now, that because of our competitive community and MCS events, that will likely never happen again for a KC Cup or World Qualifier. Expect secret top tier decks to only emerge in future MCSs, as I will always plan to host them right before a big in-game event. The worst part about this event, among other issues, is that you do not have another chance to redeem yourself or try again in the near future. That's it. Konami puts all importance on this single event, while every KC Cup doesn't mean anything at all, with no prizes. Hopefully that will change in the next year to give actual incentive to do well for players to prove themselves. Now, I'm not going to place blame on these issues as everyone had to equally deal with them, but there were some definite major issues with this event that adds too much BS randomness deciding the best players for the event, besides the usual issues we always have dealt with. My major gripe with this event was that it was experimental. That's right, basically a beta event to decide who goes to Japan. They had a completely different matchmaking system than last year and a different system than the last 3 KC Cups, which definitely made this event worse compared to the last KC Cup. The main problem? Region locked ELO matchmaking. What does that mean? This means that you only play players of the same region and are supposed to be prioritized to play people of the same duel points as yourself. Sounds like a good idea, right? Well, it definitely wasn't, and I talked about this being a major issue way before the event ever started. Mind you, all of these issues have already been solved in a previous KC Cup by being global ELO matchmaking, which is what this event should have been. The number one issue with this is the top 5 to 10 players continually matchmaked against each other throughout the entire weekend. This caused huge opportunities for collusion and also rock, paper, scissors countering each other by trying to swap to counter decks or side and counter cards specifically for a targeted player. The top players were communicating with each other, strategically planning on how to avoid playing each other or how to screw over other top players by playing stall, for example. This is a 100% fact. I do not blame the players. I blame Konami for having such a bad, exploitable system that decides who goes to Japan or not. These events should 100% be solo events. There should be no reason to be discussing with other players on what and when to queue into the game. Global ELO matchmaking would have prevented this, as you continue to play the best players in the game, but not the same 5 players. There's a good reason for my events on why you have to submit a deck list and you're not just able to switch to whatever deck or cards you want for game 2 and 3 because it is too random. And that is what happens when you continue to play the same players over and over, trying to predict or counter their cards or just hope that they're playing the same deck. Because believe me, if you think that's a good system, I would love to do it for tournaments. No deck list submission, no deck checks. Everyone just play whatever the hell you want to play for game 1, 2, and 3. Matchmaking was over a minute long to find a player as it kept searching for other top 5 to 10 players that are queuing. Now, issue number 2 with region locked ELO system. Potato farming. What is this? It basically means that I am literally farming potato players. Players that have never reached King of Games ever before. Because of myself playing at unpopular times of the day while all the good players are sleeping. This is an issue with being region locked. I played against a ton of potatoes during this event. The worst decks and the worst players I've ever seen. Yet this was supposed to be an event that you specially qualified for. That was how they presented the previous KC Cups, that the top players were only qualifying for this event. Now, why would I be complaining about this advantage I had? stomping easy players, free wins, right? Because it means my competition also had this same advantage. Who knows who was able to farm the most potatoes this event? And any random bad luck with a potato duel means you lost 1,800 to 1,900 points when a win only nets you 1,000, basically costing you 2 wins. I felt like I was on a potato field, avoiding the other top players at 5 a.m. on Saturday while every other above decent player was sleeping. I, for some reason, even played against never reached cog before potatoes on the final day, hours before the event concluded. My final loss was 1,900 points lost to a goddamn Cyberstein player with no King of Games in his profile. We simply do not have enough competitive players per region and needed global ELO matchmaking to avoid collusion, playing the same people over and over, and to avoid potato farming. Not only did I play the top 10 players over and over, I even played Gianna, who never even reached top 10 this weekend, at least 3 to 4 times during the weekend. Global ELO ensures a consistent stream of top players playing top decks. Then on a global ELO scale, just give out the Japan invites based on being compared to others in your own region. Simple fix that Konami has already done in a previous KC Cup. Now, before I talk about my decks, here's my wish list for the next year for qualifying for Worlds. Number 1, I would like to see global ELO matchmaking, which they have already done with the previous KC Cups and it works well. Number 2, this being a 3-day event, as it's always been besides the first KC Cup ever, is simply too long of an event. Either limit duels or have everyone do a 24-hour duel marathon, then end it. Number 3, a more competitive format, having you play against your opponents in a best of 3 games instead of best of 1, which will never be balanced in any card game ever. Number 4, have KC Cup reward points towards qualifying for Worlds, as they are useless events for now, besides just using them as practice. There should be a reason to play KC Cups throughout the year. It's extremely lazy of Konami to have an event held once a year, pretend like it's an exclusive event, yet thousands of potatoes are able to play in it that can't even reach King of Games, yet this one event once per year decides going to Japan. Now onto the decks I used. I used spellbooks to go from 0 to 20k points. This was great for farming Sylvan players. Dark Magician of Chaos was incredible, going even with Anki, and usually giving the much needed extra spellbook card for the next turn follow-up. Knowing how to set up a turn 1 Fool of Prophecy, which many do not know how to do, was essential for doing well. For example, if you have a Fool plus Master plus Eternity in your opening hand, your combo is this: Summon Fool, send secrets, Master copy secrets to search Fate, set Eternity, use Fate to banish secrets and send Eternity on the field back to your hand, use Eternity to add secrets, use secrets to search your 5th spellbook, then you officially have a turn 1 Fool of Prophecy play, which ends with a Dark Magician of Chaos, Raper of Prophecy, and 2 spellbook searches. Also very important to have your toggle to on to use Fate in the end phase. Spellbooks was definitely the highest skill cap deck heading into this event. Then with a considerable lead, all I saw at the top were spellbooks and hero players. The heroes were to counter the spellbooks. My prediction before the event was that spellbooks would not become popular until later in the event among the top players. Spellbooks don't have an amazing matchup against heroes, so I decided to switch to heroes myself. While heroes struggle against Amazons, if you aren't able to Trinity OTK them, Amazons were instant losing to stall decks, which was a great benefit for heroes. With triple enemy controller in my hero deck, I was able to dominate the hero matchup by stealing their monsters for fusions, mass change targets, or even stealing an Anki to search a mass change from my own deck. Trinity was MVP for this event, stealing so many games. So much so that spellbook players were summoning their Reaper in defense to not lose to a Trinity. Basically, the meta became dominated by heroes being everywhere, as people did not want an instant loss to stall from playing Amazons to counter them. So your next best deck to use in a hero dominated meta is Grit Sylvans. I did not use Grit Sylvans, but I was about to. If my overall performance started slacking, then I was going to switch to Grit Sylvans, as the spellbook players were getting sick of losing to masked heroes. Spellbook players needed a turn 1 Fool of Prophecy or Grass That's Greener to keep up, so many were sick of bricking with that deck and just switched to heroes themselves. Another annoying trend was people were playing Grit with masked heroes. I never resorted to that myself, but I lost to many of them. Then for the final day, many of the top players opted to play Stall, to stall out the other top players by forcing draws, while every regular player was scooping quickly to stall, as they wanted to get in as many games possible on the final day. So it was many free wins if you played Stall. That's it for my region rep qualifier experience. Good luck and congratulations to everyone who qualified for Japan. I'm excited excited to see what format they use for Worlds this year, as I may officially adopt it for my own events. Again, thank you all for your support. It truly means a lot. I'm sorry for anyone I may have let down. The competition was top tier and the meta was pretty much all figured out. So thank you all.